Next year will be our last season. The network will be ending The Late Show in May. And yeah, I share your feelings. It's not just the end of our show, but it's the end of The Late Show on CBS. I'm not being replaced. This is all just going away.
It is all finally just going away. Best news we've all heard for a while now, and I gotta say, I am making this video because I think that there will be more instances happening like this in the near future. I had a feeling when President Donald Trump won the election last November that this was going to finally cause America to not just heal, but allow our culture to swing back on that pendulum, back when movies were good, talk shows were funny, television was funny, shows were interesting, writing was creative. Notice how all that died away over the last decade and a half. Why do you think that is? It's because liberal progressivism is an absolute disease when it comes to creativity and when it comes to freedom of expression and when it comes to shows and entertainment. It destroys all of that in favor of being preachy, in favor of being self-righteous and pompous, all in favor of spreading a narrative. Our culture has been suffering in America for the last 15 years because of that. And this show being canceled the way that it's been canceled is actually a sign of good health coming back to our American culture, our entertainment. It probably won't come as a surprise to any of you, anybody who's seen his show or watched clips on YouTube or on social media, that the Colbert Show, according to the New York Post, canceled liberal host's Colbert Show because he lost $40 to $50 million a year. A year. And if you've ever seen clips of his show, the guy is not funny. Now, people always point to his prior Comedy Central work and say, well, he was funny then. And I could see that. I actually witnessed this happen more and more as time goes on. A lot of people, comedians, wind up being very funny at first, and then over time, they develop a stronger and stronger case of TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. And it's this all-consuming mind virus of sorts that consumes them to the point of where they become obsessed and hyper-focused on Donald Trump at the expense of their own careers. Colbert certainly is very likely to have fallen victim to it. Half of his show wound up being criticisms about President Donald Trump and lectures about political morality. Nobody wants to tune in at the end of a long workday with a dinner or a snack before bed and get lectured politically and hear that our nation's being destroyed from the inside out by a president who doesn't care about us. First of all, that's not true. Second of all, even for the people who believe that's true, you're only stressing them out. They're trying to go to bed so they can wake up the next morning for work, and they want to have a few good laughs. That's what late night talk shows used to be about. They've lost their way, especially Colbert and others. We'll get to that in a second. Other shows might be next on the list, in fact, but I want to point out something fascinating. This is the late night TV ratings trends graph that I pulled up starting from 2014 through Q1, Q2 of this year, 2025. And as you can see, it's measuring the ratings of 3 different shows. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert highlighted in blue, Jimmy Kimmel highlighted in green, and Jimmy Fallon highlighted in red. And the interesting thing is, there's just no denying it. The Colbert Show wasn't actually performing from a rating standpoint all that bad. Not nearly as bad as Kimmel or Fallon. It was starting to dip under 3 million though, and it was just continually going down ever since 2019. Once it hit its peak, it looks like there. But at the end of the day, hovering around 3 million views, it does make you wonder. His show couldn't have been canceled necessarily just for viewership alone. And in a rare Rolling Stone issue win, a title that actually makes sense, they title it End of an Era, Politics, Not Performance, killed The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. The title alone is actually true. Stephen Colbert was obsessed with politics and lecturing his audience. The very night that he announced the cancellation of his show, his mainline guest was Adam Schiff, the corrupt politician. That was his main star attraction guest that night. That's not late night TV. When I used to watch television still, 10 years ago, late night television, Fallon and Kimmel, and I loved Conan, they used to have cool guests on. They used to have like animal zookeepers on that would bring animals onto the stage, and they used to have The Rock on, and they used to have, actors and actresses on that were actually cool, and singers and comedians. Stephen Colbert had a politician on his show to talk about politics. Who wants to watch that? And that brings me to this, because like I said, it wasn't actually about the money, just like Rolling Stone magazine's headline said. This South Park lands a $1.5 billion streaming deal with Paramount Plus. South Park. There's a few statements that this article alone makes about Stephen Colbert and late night television in general. First of all, despite his show losing 40 to 50 million a year, just like the front page of New York Post reported, Paramount Plus managed to come up with $1.5 billion to obtain South Park in a streaming deal. So that tells you what you need to know. Money wasn't the issue. Viewership wasn't the issue. He was actually doing the best out of all the other late night shows, according to my research. It was politics. And that alone is what tells me the culture is shifting in America. People are rejecting the liberal mainstream narrative. People are rejecting political correctness. South Park is the least politically correct show ever, and Paramount signed them. And I want to point something else out here. Further proof that the culture is shifting. This just happened on The View yesterday.
And before we go on hiatus, we only have one more show after this. I'm allowed to say that, right?
Too late now.
So it doesn't really matter. Yeah.
Before we go, I wanted to tell people that the tide is turning. The tide is turning, and things are changing.
The View is going on a hiatus. Today marked the final recording of their final episode before that hiatus. Another insufferable liberal show. And they are another show, once again, guilty of experiencing incredibly low ratings, potentially hitting record lows according to the AI overview of Google, but I've gone on to research this more. And while their ratings have been up a little bit this past week or two, this past summer perhaps even, their ratings have been tanking, especially last year. You would think during the political season, since they're now apparently a political show, that their ratings would have been doing well, but they were hitting record low ratings last summer in 2024. Nobody wants to watch a bunch of 60-year-old washed white women and Whoopi Goldberg try to tell us who we should be voting for. And you know, the thing is with The View, maybe it's truly just a hiatus. Some people have pointed out that it could be a summer recess. Perhaps the show has done this in the past before, where they give the hosts a month off to enjoy summer or something like that. But everyone now is taking advantage of this news and calling for the flat-out cancellation of The View. People don't want this show around anymore. It's very annoying. They're very dumb. It creates secondhand embarrassment when you watch clips of it because they literally don't know anything they're talking about. And so everyone is jumping on this saying, oh, cancel The View. Why not? Add it to the list with Stephen Colbert. And I got to say, I totally agree. So does President Trump, who hates The View and has tweeted out against them. And that brings me to my third and final point. Who's next? Who's next on this cancellation? But before I tell you, make sure to subscribe to American Advocates, especially if this is not your first time watching this channel. Because you see, the thing is, if you don't subscribe, I'm going to get canceled. And we don't want that to happen. Only liberal progressives deserve to have their shows canceled. So subscribe, click the bell icon as well to make sure that you're notified every single time that I post a video. And here we go, a tweet from President Donald Trump.
The word is, it's a strong word at that, Jimmy Kimmel is next to go in the untalented late-night sweepstakes, and shortly thereafter, Fallon will be gone. These are people with absolutely no talent at all, who are paid millions of dollars for, in all cases, destroying what used to be great television. It used to be great, not anymore. It's really good to see them go, and I hope I played a major part.
See, that's why I voted for him. I love my president. He hopes he played a major part in it, and he's absolutely spot on. Jimmy Kimmel, by all accounts, probably should have been canceled before Colbert, purely based on this fact right here. He has lower ratings than Colbert by a considerable amount. People despise Kimmel a lot more. This guy cried last year when President Trump won the elections. It was embarrassing, and he absolutely deserves to have his show canceled as well. And with ratings that low, I can only imagine what his show is profiting, if anything at all at this point. And this is just overall a very healthy sign that our American culture might be getting saved before our very eyes, indirectly thanks to President Donald Trump. I kind of, like I said, thought this might happen. Elections affect a lot, not just domestic policy and foreign relations. And I think Americans in general are desperate for our culture to be restored so that we can go and be entertained again, not lectured to in movies and television. Give this video a like if you agree, and comment down below what shows you want to see get canceled, and I'll let you know in the comments if I agree. Thanks so much for watching.